Hey guys, thank you so much for joining. Today I am doing a solo episode. I am Ashley-less again. Ashley was here this morning and she says like, I'm so tired. I'm not going to give the energy to the podcast. So she isn't doing it. She's doing a lot of shows in a row. Hopefully she's going to get some sleep. She said she'd do it tomorrow, the podcast. I told her, you know what, get the sleep. It's more important. She's got 3 shows in 3 weekends. So we're letting her get her rest and relaxation. She needs it. She just flew in and hasn't been sleeping so much too. So hopefully she'll be back here next week. We'll see how she's feeling. Should be fine because we're not changing too many time zones. But we are flying out to Denver tomorrow, actually. Flying out to Denver. We'll be there this weekend. If you guys are in Denver, we have some posing classes going on Thursday at 7. You can meet Ashley. She's doing the Mile High, obviously. And you can see her there too. Hope to see a lot of you guys there. So anyway, today is about set point theory. But one more thing before we go into it. Ashley actually won the Toronto Pro. So everyone say congrats to Ashley on her Instagram, on her page. She won the Toronto Pro, which is awesome. It's her 34th win. It is absolutely insane that it's actually happening. We're watching, every time she wins, you're watching history because she's making it that much harder for someone to ever beat that record. She already has the record of the most winning pro ever in the sport, not just bikini, but in all divisions. So every time we're watching it, I always like to take a step back and realize, hey, I'm watching history here, and that record may never be broken. I don't know if that record is ever going to be broken, but it's pretty cool. It's also cool to see that what we're doing is working, and it's working at a high level. And I think that at this point, we're starting to convince people, yeah, you can compete all the time. You can live lean, and you don't need to be going through these crazy preps where you're doing 2 hours of cardio and eating 900 calories. And that's kind of what brings us to today's episode, which is set point theory. It's pretty cool. So set point theory is this. I'm gonna simplify this because unfortunately, it's easily debunked. But set point theory is essentially if you were staying at, let's say, as a female, and you were staying at 12 to 14% body fat for bikini. So a good example would be Ashley. She's staying probably in the she doesn't really have a serious off season, but the highest she gets is probably 15% body fat. On stage, she's somewhere in the 12s percentages of body fat. And that's a real body fat. So if you girls are thinking that you're 7% body fat, 6% body fat, I see these girls and I'm like, I'm 7% body fat, and they barely have any abs on stage. I'm like, no, you were never 7% body fat. It is highly unlikely that a female is getting to 7% body fat. The best women's physique competitors and bodybuilders, female bodybuilders in the world, barely get to single digit body fats. 9 percentages is like insane if a female looks like that. So just throwing that out there. Now, so the theory is, okay, Ashley's been maintaining this body fat for 3 years, right? 12 to 15%, somewhere around that range, maybe slightly under that at 11 to high 11s at some point. After she does it for a long period of time, it is going to be harder for the body to store fat past a certain point. So for guys, let's say, so I average around like 185 pounds or so. So basically the theory is, okay, I've maintained 185 pounds for a long period of time. Even in weight loss, people talk about this. And so now it's going to be hard for me to get up to 195. So I can kind of eat what I want. I don't need to pay attention anymore. I'm just going to kind of stay at 185 because I've done it for so long. That's my set point. That's what set point theory is. Basically staying at a weight, staying at a body fat percentage, whatever, for a long enough time where it'll impact your future ability to gain weight past that. It'll make it hard for you to do that. Almost, and some people are like, if you just keep it for long enough, it's almost impossible, right? And this is what's used in marketing, I think, more than anything, especially when people are selling like diet programs and whatnot. And I'm not going to say that I'm above selling diet programs. That's how I make my living, is selling nutrition programs and whatnot too. But I would never say, hey, I'm going to create a program for you where you'll never gain body fat again. That's not the truth. So set point theory. All right. So what is the reason that people came up with this concept and this theory, right? Well, one, it's really good marketing, right? If I could say, hey, I'm going to give you one diet and you're going to do it forever, I'm going to do one diet, you're going to do it for whatever, 6 months, and then you're going to stay lean for 2 years, and after that, you're never going to have to worry about gaining body fat again. That's a really good concept. That's a great way to sell a product. Can you imagine a product that has like 2 years investment and lifelong returns like that? That'd be sick. I'd make that investment for 2 years, no problem. I would go on the hardest diet possible, known to man, if I could do it for 2-year period and then just maintain those results for the rest of my life. Totally, 100%. I wouldn't even question it, right? If it was proven by science, who wouldn't do that, right? Just kill yourself for 2 years and then just stay looking like that. Yeah, absolutely. 7 days a week, 2-a-day workouts, eat nothing but fish, no problem. And then you just like, and then eat whatever you want. And then you look fine. You just look just like that forever, right? So like, even if you just think about it like that, right? That sounds ridiculous. So where did this theory even come from? It came from really good marketing, right? It came from people selling products, trying to get you to believe something. The diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar diet industry, and that is a great marketing ploy. So now, how are they coming up with even the theory of it, right? That's what the crazy thing is like, where did that concept even come from, right? How do people justify even saying that? Well, okay, so that's the lie about set point theory, right? That you just will stay there for no matter what you do, you'll just stay there, within reason, right? So that's the lie about it. But what's the truth about it, right? Well, the truth about it, and I think where some confusion happens, and this is usually what happens. Usually what happens is there's a little bit of truth to something, and then someone runs with that little bit of detail that was in whatever research or study and makes a big deal about it. And then someone in the mainstream picks it up. They start marketing it. They don't know they're fully lying, but they kind of might think that they don't know the full truth to it. And then they just run with it, and then it becomes like a thing, right? So where's the truth behind it? The truth behind it is if you're sticking, let's say, so for example, we'll use Ashley again, right? Everyone knows Ashley in here, so why not? Ashley's been doing this diet for, 12 to 15% maintaining her body fat. She's been doing it now with me for 3 years, right? Ashley has developed really good habits now, right? So if you've done a diet for, a long period of time and you've maintained a low body fat, so if I've maintained, let's say 180 pounds for a long period of time, well, I've developed good habits, it's become normal to me. It's become regular to me to eat like this. It's not as much effort as it was before. And so now, because it's easier for me to do that because I'm already doing it for extended periods of time, well, then yeah, I'm not gaining any body fat back. I'm not gaining any weight back because I'm able to adhere to the diet for extended period of time. So it looks like I reached a set point where I can't get past that. But in reality, I'm just taking the same actions that were hard for me originally, and I'm doing them on the daily now because it's a normal habit and routine, right? So that's where the truth of set point is. I know there's not a set point where you can just eat whatever you want and just change your eating habits completely and just maintain that. But I do think that there's a set point in your mind where you just kind of get used to eating that way, where everything doesn't feel like it's so much sacrifice anymore. And I think that that's something that it leads us to another area of competition prep. And I think it's an area where I will say on our podcast that we can get better at, and maybe we fail a little bit at it because to the regular person, Ashley and myself, especially myself being like a regular, I'm just at this point, I'm just like a regular fitness enthusiast. I'm not a competitor anymore. I do take it seriously. But I just do it for me just to look good and just to maintain an athletic look, For Ashley, obviously she's a competitor and she's doing it at the highest level and she's very extreme. She doesn't go past that, right? She doesn't go past that 15%. She doesn't go past 6 pounds stage weight. That's where we keep her at, 6 pounds above stage weight. But remember, she's competing all year. So 6 pounds is it's not unrealistic if you're competing like once a month type of thing. So, and I'm the same way. So I try to keep it really close. I'm really clean on my diet. But where we fail at is we say that it's like a normal thing. I've learned over the years, and when I get responses back from on the podcast, that it's not normal. I think that a lot of people struggle with adhering to a diet long term and adhering to any concept of that. So they will fall into the trap of, I'll do this set point theory thing, right? And we don't think about it as set point theory being a mindset. We think about it as being physiological, right? Not psychological. And so the set point theory is I think it is there, and I think it's more so in the psychological way it is there. I don't think there's any physiological part of it, but the psychological part, right? So how do we get there is the question, right? How do I get to that set point in my mind where I won't gain any body fat back because this has just become normal to me now? And so that's, I think, where me and Ashley, as doing these podcasts for, a couple of years now, need to start going a little bit more into that. Actually, we're like 3 years now on this podcast. What episode are we at? 130 or something? Yeah, so it's one a week. So yeah, it's getting up there. So I think that's another area we can dive into a little bit more when we hear back from people. And go into it. But I do like debunking this set point thing because it's just, it's not realistic for people need to know the truth of that. And it's not realistic to people to hold on to that hope, hold on to it. Oh, if I just maintain this, it's going to be hard for me to ever gain body fat back again. And that's simply not the truth. If you ever want to gain body fat back, just eat more and you will gain body fat. There's never going to be anything, at least that I've seen, that will stop that from happening. So set point theory, unfortunately, it's mostly false, if not entirely false, in terms of you being able to gain body fat back. That's never going to be a problem. You'll always be able to gain body fat back. So, but mentally, how do we get there, right? How do we get to that stage where I don't want to eat these other things, where I don't want to go past this certain point? And I think that that's something that we really got to dive into. I've been getting it a lot lately, I would say. A lot of people are going into it's weird that people are going to their off season now. Like I'm getting some pros that are going to their off season, not necessarily my pros, but other pros. And I'm getting some that want to start competing. I'm getting some that are in their off season. And I'm getting a lot of messages. I talk to a lot of pros. It's really nice to be able to talk to a lot of pros. I can't take on a lot of pros. So a lot of pros do reach out to me just to talk. They're other people's athletes and stuff. They just know I just don't have that ability to take on so many. And I get messages and we talk, and it's like, I met one the other day and she's overseas and she put on so much weight. It was shocking how much weight she put on. And I'm like, what happened? Was it medical or what was it? And she was, she was up almost 50% of her body weight. So it was like high 40% of body weight. And I was like, man, and she was talking about competing again and all this. And I was like, you're not really, in a position to even talk about competing. You're like in the very early stages of like a regular transformation client. I don't even know what that end result will be if you compete again. Now that you need to lose, close to 50% of your body weight, right? So how do we get there, right? And I think that's the important topic is how do we get there? How can I maintain this? And I think that where it comes down to is we're still thinking about things the wrong way, especially those people in the off season. So people see Ashley and they see her compete, and they see her compete all the time. And like, so for example, she jumped into the Toronto Pro as just an idea, right? She was like, I think I want to do a Toronto Pro. And I was like, she checked in, she did a posing with me. And I was like, yeah, honestly, I don't see any reason why not. You look great, let's just do it. So she jumped in like 6 days before the show, right? That's crazy. 6 days before, and she won the show. Now she was prepping for another show, but she was already in shape. She didn't go, so and she's done it. At that point, she was eating like 1,460 calories. She's doing cardio. She's doing Orange Theory cardio 3 times a week. How do we get there, right? How do we get to that point? Is Ashley just a genetic freak? And I was on a podcast the other day, and they asked me this question. They're like, it was kind of cool. It was actually, for me, it was like an eye-opening thing. And they said to me on the podcast, they said, do you think that's realistic for everyone to maintain that weight? Or is it just because Ashley's a genetic freak that she can like maintain that close to stage weight and all this stuff? And I said, I had to think about it. And I said, well, is Ashley really a genetic freak? Right? Or is that just all we know of her is just her being in shape? And so I had to like think back, almost 4 years ago. I mean, might have been 5, it was 2017, like late 2017, we started working together. And I was thinking to myself and I was like, man, it was really hard to get Ashley in shape. Like it was really, really hard. And she'll tell you that. She has a video out on her YouTube. It's like her transformation. And it was a period of about 6 months to get her to lose like 20 something pounds. I think it was like 27 to get her stage weight. And she was probably a little too lean that first show. So it should have been like 24 or something. If the numbers are right, I might be a few pounds off. It's been a few years. But I was thinking, I was like, really, she's not a genetic freak, because if she was a genetic freak, she wouldn't have first gained that much weight by, being regular. And then also it would have come off a lot faster if she was a genetic freak. So is she really a genetic freak? Because it took me longer to get her in shape than almost everyone. So is she really a genetic freak, or is she just really a freak at adhering to her diet now because she doesn't want to gain any weight back, and she learned how hard it was to get it off in the first place, right? And then one time she did gain weight back. She gained she was on vacation in Hawaii. She gained back, I think, like 10 or 11 pounds. And she's talked about that too. And then, it was like earlier on when we were training together, and it was really hard to get that out. I don't know if we had to not do a show because the timeline didn't make sense. I don't remember that part of it, but it was hard to get her back in shape. And I was like, you know what? She really isn't the genetic freak that everyone thinks she is in terms of body fat. She's not the girl that won't gain body fat back, but she just adheres to her diet. And I think people need to hear that out there, because they're like, they see her and they're like, oh, she can do it all the time because she's always in shape. I'm like, well, she's not always in shape because she just is that way. Like, she can gain body fat back. It is hard for her to lose body fat. Yeah, her shape, genetic structure, how she has her crazy glutes and legs, genetically, yeah, it's pretty good there. But if you look at her upper body, she's been trying to build her upper body shoulders for a long time. I mean, we're talking years now. We still have to fill up top. So it's not the genetic freak that people think she is, right? But the freak of adherence, absolutely. But you can confuse those two, right? So how did we get there, right? How did she get there besides, obviously sheer will and determination and constantly doing it? It creates these good habits. And I think if you were to look at someone like Ashley and you were to say, hey, that's set point theory working in action, because now that she's done it so long, she can't gain back that much body fat. I would tell you that's a lie. She definitely can, right? So that set point, if it were a real thing, it definitely hasn't happened yet, because she can gain back body fat pretty quickly if she doesn't stick to her diet. She doesn't ever not stick to her diet. So, but that would be someone that they would use as an example. They'd be like, well, look at her. She can compete whenever she wants. She can compete at 3 weeks out. She competed and won the Toronto at 6 days out, right? Just jumped in. And so so how do we get there? And I think that the answer is a long time ago, and it's cool because it's actually coming true now. All the theories that I had a long time ago are coming true. And, I've talked about it in the podcast before, and I was like, okay, what are we really trying to do here when we're getting ready for a show? It's just losing body fat. Obviously you're trying to get leaner to the point that you haven't been before, to something that's unrealistic, long-term to maintain. But what are we trying to do to get there? We really are just trying to maintain body fat, or trying to lose body fat. And why are we taking such extremes if someone is already in shape? So if you're getting ready for a show, you should already be in shape. Why are we now going so extreme just to get you in better shape? Why is it if you need to lose 10 pounds of body fat, you need to do an hour and a half of cardio and eat nothing but tilapia and asparagus for 16 weeks to get you to lose 10 pounds? In any other scenario, losing body fat would just take you being in a 500 calorie deficit, doing a little bit more cardio, not going through this crazy struggle to lose that body fat and get in show shape. There's no difference of competition losing body fat and regular losing body fat. It's still just fat, but our mindset is like, no, it's competition body fat. It's so lean that it's going to be harder. So it has to be tilapia. It has to be 2 hours of cardio. It has to be fasted cardio. You got to take all these supplements, all these different things. No, it's just body fat. It's the same thing, whether you need to lose 100 pounds or you need to lose the last 5 for a show. It might be harder because there's the last 5, you're a little bit more adapted than when you first started the diet. Yes. But it's still just body fat, right? And I think that that's the disconnect for people. And that's why I'm getting these emails from pros who are blowing up in the off season because they're not doing a sustainable approach in the in season that they can maintain, and therefore hit that set point in their mind, right? And I think that the set point we talked about, it's all psychological. It's not physiological. So what's that set point for you? What's that set point of balance where you can maintain a low level of body fat with a realistic, acceptable workload of cardio and workouts, and acceptable sacrifice in your diet? Where's that set point for you? Where's that balancing line for you of maintaining? And I think we need to talk more about that. That's where the set point is. Okay, I can eat once a week a cheat meal and eat clean the rest of the time, do 20 minutes of cardio 4 days a week. And if I can maintain my weight like that, that's my set point, psychological set point, right? So that's, I think, what we need to be talking about, because I'm having too many pros reach out to me who are just going like crazy in the off season. And actually it was funny as, I listened to this. I listened to this sermon. I get a lot of like actually interesting stuff from like sermons and stuff. And the pastor, he said, what did he say? I gotta have it in my notes on my phone's recording me. But he said, if there was if all of a sudden becoming Christian, if being Christian all of a sudden became illegal, would there be any evidence to convict you, right? And I thought about that in terms of like my world, right, which is contest prep. And I thought about, you know what, if all of a sudden competing became illegal, would there be any evidence to convict you in the off season, right? And it was like, it hit me because for a lot of people, there wouldn't be, you would not be doing anything illegal in the off season, right? If all of a sudden prep became illegal. So it's kind of a cool thing to think about, right? And if you like sit back and ask yourself, okay, if all of a sudden contest prep became illegal, would there be any evidence of me to be convicted in the off season, right? And most people's answers, at least some of the pros that I'm talking to that are like blowing up in the off season, the answer to them would be no. There'd be no signs of them being, of being a competitor at all in the off season. The only thing that they're doing is working out and then eating whatever they want, right? And then blowing up and then trying to fix it through an aggressive prep. So it becomes this cyclical thing. So they blow up in the off season. They take these absolute extremes to get in shape, which are unsustainable. And then guess what happens when they get those results? They don't sustain them. And it happens time and time and time again. And I'm like beating it with a dead horse at this point. And I'm like, just take a different approach for God's sake at this point. Have you not realized this? If you do 2 hours of cardio and you eat 900 calories to get ready for a show, you cannot sustain those results, okay? Because you cannot sustain doing that. But if you're doing what Ashley's doing and you're eating 1,600 calories going into a show, and then at the very last 2 weeks, maybe eating 1,200 and bumping your cardio up to 5 days at 45 minutes or 5 Orange Theory sessions, right? Like that's very realistic to maintain that in the off season, right? So yeah, she's not going to blow up. So because she's found that prepping point, which is a realistic approach for her to maintain in the off season, she's able to maintain the results in the off season. These other pros that I'm running into that are blowing up, I have a girl that reached out to me. She's over 40 pounds above stage weight. It's like, I think she's 5'1" or something, almost 50% weight gain right after a couple years. And I'm like, what? How did that happen? Well, there was such a disconnect of her living this as a lifestyle and her doing it in a prep way where she just didn't like have anything to adhere to because it was so extreme. So she just ate, like she had no concept of maintaining this results, right? And I have these time and time again. It's not just one girl. It's multiple. I gained 30 pounds post-show. Okay, why did you gain 30 pounds post-show? I don't know. I started eating like crazy and it was my fault, right? And I'm like, okay, well, why did you do that, right? And then she was like, I don't know. I just had no control. I'm like, well, what caused those urges? Like, why? She's like, well, I went from doing 2 hours of cardio to I didn't even want to be in the gym anymore after I competed. And because I didn't want to be in the gym anymore after I competed, I just started gaining weight. And then I was just so sick of eating tilapia that I just started eating regular. Then it just caused me to want to eat more. I'm like, well, what if you would have just done 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 5 minutes of cardio to get in shape? Maybe it takes you a little longer. And then you ate, 1,400 calories to get in shape, and it took you a little longer. You think you'd have been able to maintain that a little better, Why don't you try that? So that's where I think that the set point thing needs to go to. That conversation needs to go to, okay, how can I prep in a way where I can sustain the results and I can actually start being concerned with the off season? Because if you're doing this sport seriously, your off seasons are super, super important. But it's still something that people don't think about as much because like, oh, I'll just work harder during the in season. I've had pros tell me that. I'd rather just eat like whatever I want in the off season and just crush it for 16 weeks. I'm like, that's cool. But then eventually your body stops responding to that and then you stop competing. And these are the girls that are like, oh, prep ruined my life on Instagram. They're like, prep ruined it. It ruined my hormones. It ruined this. And everyone's talking about that, right? I'm like, no, prep didn't ruin your metabolism and ruin your hormones and ruin this. You did, because you went in the off season and you ate terribly. You gained back, 25, 30% of your body weight. And, and then you used a crazy prep method to get you in shape because you're in this mad panic to get in shape within 16 weeks of a show that you chose. And then that was an unsustainable approach. and then you did it again, and it was cyclical for you, and you did it repeating and repeating. And then one day your body said, enough is enough. I'm not going to respond to that. And then you're like, prep ruined me, because now it takes so much effort past what the extreme effort you were putting in to get in shape, that it's not even realistic for you to get in shape like that anymore, because your body's just so adapted to these extreme preps over and over and over again, because you're not maintaining in the off season, right? So that's where the set point theory needs to go, is it needs to go, okay, what's the set point for my mind? What can I realistically maintain in the off season? What's my acceptable discomfort level to maintain these results? And I think we all need to ask ourselves that, and have that real conversation with yourself. You know, are you being a good student in the off season? Is there evidence of you being a competitor in the off season? Or are you just using excuses saying that you're bulking, or just not even thinking about the end result in the off season? What is it for you? You know, what makes that work for you? And I think that everyone's going to have their own thing. And some people, you know, I call them like competition tourists. And a competition tourist is someone who's just vacationing in contest prep. They have no intentions of doing this for life. They're going to crush themselves one time. They're going to get in great shape, and then they're never going to do it again, because they're not going to put that effort out. They're just visiting this life, visiting this world. But we have people that are going to live in this world too. You know, people who are residents. And those people are the ones that have figured out. Those are people, the ones that sustain those results. Those are the people that are eating good in the off season and care about it 24/7. And when you see these preps that I post all the time, and I would say at least 90% of my athletes do 45 minutes or less cardio for a prep for a show. I would say at least 90%, honestly. And it's very, very few that have to go farther than that. And so why is it? Did I figure out this magic formula where I'm able to do this? And I'm like, no, I just keep them accountable in the off season, and they don't blow up, so they don't need that much to get in shape, right? The first prep, we always say here, first prep, worst prep, right? That's the one. Do whatever you got to do to get in shape that first time, and then after that, maintain it. You maintain that one, it's not going to be hard after that. And I think that's where you reach that set point theory, at least a psychological set point theory. What is it going to take for you to maintain the results? What's a good exchange between me and the athlete, which is going to be acceptable for you to have some balance, but also maintain the results so you can have some accountability, right? And so a couple of things that I've come up with that have been helpful is the post-workout. That's something that's been really good for me for keeping people to adhere to a diet, is post-workout in the off-season, and sometimes in the in-season too. I'll give them any carb they want to eat in that post-workout. So if they have, let's say, I have this whole workout formula of nutrition that I'll put some athletes in, probably like half my athletes. I'll put in this whole thing where it's like pre-workout, intra-workout, post-workout, and it's different nutrition. And it's different for different people too. If some people are having a hard time adhering to the diet, I might just do the post-workout and then give them like some sugar carbs in that post-workout, some cereal in that post-workout, something high glycemic that feels like they're cheating on their diet, but it's actually the perfect time to have that cheat on the diet, where we can spike insulin, get some leucine and get some amino acids in the system, and use that to help with recovery, right? It's a good time for that. And then they look forward to it, and they don't feel like they need to have these cravings outside of that, because they have their sugar in their post-workout, right? They can look forward to it. They can plan it. They can do gummy bears. They can do cereal. They can do whatever fruit, sugar-based things, right? Things that they won't normally do on their diet. And we have that freedom on that after that workout, especially after a hard workout, to do that post-workout. And that does help people. So if that's something you need, talk to your coach about it. If you work with us, talk to one of our coaches about it. But we could put that on your diet to make it a little simpler, right? Make it a little bit less restrictive feeling. I've talked about macro dieting before. We can go into that in another episode because it's a long one. But I don't think macro dieting is a successful way to prep people that want to do this like at a high level. I think in the off season, or for someone who's just doing a transformation, I think it's great. But it doesn't give the coach the data that they need, the accurate data that they need, because it doesn't take into account the full effect of the different types of micronutrients, macronutrients, right, are there, but then not the net calories that are being used in the body. So for example, the reason I don't like it is because I'm extreme about the data. I want the data to be as precise as possible. I just want it to be a formula. So it's calories plus cardio plus supplements plus workouts equal X result every week, right? That's the formula. with the proper data, we can really get that down to a precise tool and manipulate those 4 tools to create whatever result we want. But with the macro dieting, the problem you run into is the data is all over the place because one, our nutrition labels lie to us all the time to sell more product. I did it the other day with like a Thomas English muffin. It said 100 calories on it. It was like the difference of carbs from one to the other was 1 gram of carbs. The other one's 140 calories. You can go into your grocery store and look at Thomas English muffin. One's 140 calories, one's 100 calories supposedly, and there's only 1 carb difference. Well, 1 carb is only 4 calories, right? So, and then the argument's like, oh, well, there's fiber, so you just take those out, and that's why it's 100 calories. Well, some fibers still has, net calories of 2 calories per gram, sometimes 3. It depends, right? So, like, it's not it's not as simple as that, right? And so you like look at the label and you're like, okay, that's only 100 calories. I'll have 4 of those for my carbs today. Well, each one was off by 40%, right? How is a coach going to make good data calculation with you being off by 40% on one thing, right? And then you're going to have your carbs, let's say it's 50 carbs from orange juice, right? And then 50 carbs from broccoli. Well, the 50 carbs from broccoli is really hard to digest. So you're going to have less net calories. So after it's called thermic effect of food, the calories it takes your body to digest food subtracted from the total consumption of the calories, right? So if you take in, let's say orange juice, 50 carbs from orange juice, your body's going to pretty much digest all of those calories. So that's 200 calories and 50 grams of orange juice and 50 carbs of orange juice. So your body's going to use all 200 of those calories, right? And then the other person is doing 50 carbs from broccoli. Well, you're probably only get like 100 of those calories from broccoli because it takes so many calories to digest those foods. Actually, it's probably less. So with how am I going to get that data from someone macro dieting, right? And they want to do shows and have precise data. It's just not the best tool. It's great for lifestyle. So, but anyway, that being said, because that's a whole nother podcast on its own. That's why I don't do macro dieting. It's not because I don't believe that it works great for some people. I think it does work great for some people, especially transformation people who are just trying to get a little better at eating. But people don't come to me for those types of results. People come to me for extreme results. So, I have to use extreme methods, to get them there. I want adherence. I want accountability. I want to know the diet. I want to know the data. That's what they pay me for. So now, that being said, the best diet is someone that someone can stick to, right? So maybe that is the best thing for someone, right? I don't think that you're going to get someone who's macro dieting and just throwing options in there, competing against someone like Ashley and have a positive result. I don't think that's going to work out that well at all. Not at that level, right? So, but if you're just a regular person and you're just trying to get in shape and whatnot, and you're just getting started, I think that's a great way. But let's say you're that person in the off season now, right? You're a pro in the off season and you've historically gained back, 20, 30 pounds, whatever. And you need and you're having a hard time adhering to the diet, like 1 macro meal a day doesn't throw off the data too much. If it's let's say it's 1/5 of your calories that day, and that data might be off by 20% every day. Well, a bikini pro eating, let's say 1,600 calories in the off season, that meal might be 300 calories. So if it's off by, let's say 20%, it's not a huge amount of calories to throw off the data that much. So I think the comfort level for her and the data for me is a good compromise. So that person might have a macro meal. So 1 macro meal per day and the post-workout sugars. I think that's a pretty good amount of flexibility in the diet to adhere to it long-term. And maybe that's that person's psychological set point of what they can accept and maintain the results, right? So just a couple things from my experience that I've gone into, and I think that the best way to attack it. But unfortunately, the set point theory of your body won't gain body fat back is just a marketing tool for people to sell you programs. I'll never lie to you. I'll always tell you my mistakes and things that I've believed in the past as well. And I've made mistakes for many. If I look back at my workout programs that I did 10 years ago and I look back at them now, on my nutrition plans, and I would look at those and be like, those are terrible. What was I thinking? So I'm constantly going to be learning, and as we always should be, and getting new stuff. But that's something that I was thinking that might have even been true a long time ago too. But these things, they grab you, and they're good theories that you want them to be true. But the reality is it always comes back to the same thing: adherence to the diet in the off season, suffering a little bit in prep, and putting out a good amount of effort and focusing on a goal every single day and attacking that goal and capturing that day every single day without having those bad days that set you back too far, So anyway, that being said, what I'm going to do is I want to answer any of these questions now on Instagram that you guys have. If there is any questions here at all, you guys shoot them to me now, and I'll jump into them. I'm not sure if it's going to be on the actual podcast. I'm scrolling back through, so sorry for a little break. Usually I can do these while Ashley's talking. So, okay, here's a question from Amy. What was Ashley's set point before competing? If I remember having her in 2017, I think she was close to 30 pounds above where she is now. So, and I don't think that was a set point, of course. I think that was just where she was. It was like, I think it was 27 pounds. Let me see, any questions coming in? I don't think we got any questions. All right. Okay, here's a question from you. This is not really about set point, but I'll jump into it. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to go into this one. This one's more about set point. Okay, Lovin' Losing. That's a cool name. The question is, do you find that the more an athlete competes, the better they get at reversing? It depends on how that athlete's competing. So I will say if the athlete is competing and they're doing it my way, right? They're doing it the way that Ashley's bought into, and now that's why she's able to do what she does now is she buys into it. She buys into the no bulk. She buys into the higher calories, lower cardio. She doesn't go into these crazy, she doesn't eat any fish, She's bought into it, right? And it's proven that it's worked. It's proven over a long period of time that it's worked, and I don't think anyone's proving it better than her, that hey, you can do this like that. So someone like her who's really done great at it, yeah, absolutely. It's easy for her to reverse because her mindset is like, it's there now, right? Because she hasn't had these extremes. What I will say is the more extreme someone has to be, it appears to me the harder it is for them to adhere to their diet in the post show. I don't know what happens. It's like a leptin ghrelin thing where your hunger hormones and your satiety hormones are just all over the place. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it just feels like a get out of jail free card and people are just, when they get done with the show, they just lose it and they just can't control what they put in their mouth, But I find it to be the harder the diet, the worse that someone can adhere to the post-show diet. And the more those girls blow up, and then what happens is a lot of times, and unfortunately, they'll work with this coach for a year or 2 years, and then they contact me. I want to do this in another way where I can sustain it, right, type of thing. And then at that point, it's a little harder. And we usually got to go a little bit harder and impress with those people because they're so adapted from those previous preps. So it unfortunately has its like timeline where everything just seems to just get hard for a while. If you do it too many times, it seems like you're just kind of setting yourself up for harder preps. And unfortunately, harder preps are usually going to lead to more rebounds and more less adherence to the post-show diet. It's unfortunate, but that's the truth. Okay, here's another one from Allison Fitness. What would you say sometime, sorry, I'm reading, sometimes I read them and there's like typos. What would you say to someone, I think this is what she meant, who says clean eating is disordered and restrictive? What I would say to them is I would look, here's a funny, I love this actual question because it doesn't, one, it's honestly kind of a dumb question because people don't think about it, right? So I'll go into it. When people say you eating clean is disordered, I would ask them, what is your baseline for regular if this is disordered? Is regular to you eating foods that weren't even available 200 years ago and eating foods that are unhealthy for you? Is regular to you obesity as an epidemic in the United States? Is regular to you kids having diabetes at rates they never have in their entire life? Is regular to you cardiorespiratory disease in the United States being the number one killer of adults, dying early? Is that what's regular to you? Because to me, that seems like a big fucking problem, right? So I would say to you, you need to redefine your definition of what regular is. Regular is what cavemen used to eat, what was available and provided by nature. That was what's regular. Fruits and healthy foods and and, meats that are, things like that. That is what regular is, what was regularly available and provided, right, for us. The foods that we're creating with preservatives and all this junk in it and fast foods and that high in cholesterol and causing people problems and causing people addiction to food, that doesn't seem like the route of regular to me. That seems like like a problem of addiction of taste, right? Food companies have gotten the things that we're addicted to, sugars and high salts and high fats, and put them in this perfect concoction that we call food, and said, this is now regular. And if you eat healthy, oh my gosh, you got a problem. You got a real problem, you watching your weight and staying healthy. Like, you better watch that, because that's a real issue. That's a real concern. You have an eating disorder, right? Bullshit, man. Like, don't try to shove that in my throat, that me eating healthy and trying to live healthy and trying to eat clean is the wrong way of doing things, right? Don't tell me that you, in your gluttonous ways of eating pizza, 3 days a week and feeling good about it, and telling me that these, obese models now on Sports Illustrated is what is attractive, right? I'll tell you this, okay? Natural attraction isn't someone who's 200 pounds overweight on a cover of Sports Illustrated magazine. My natural attraction to a fitness magazine is going to be a fitness model, right? That's what's the problem with our society now, is we shame people who are taking care of their health. We say, this is beautiful. Like, Victoria's Secret models aren't beautiful the way they were. Like, bullshit. They were gorgeous before, right? So don't tell me what regular is and what my natural instinct is of attraction. Don't tell me what sacrificing me to be a little bit healthy and live longer and live a good, healthy life is wrong, and eat disordered eating. You eating, knowing you're going to shorten years off your lifespan because of taste, that's disordered eating, right? So that's my take on that. And I will always stand by that. And I don't care if you guys try to cancel me for that. I want to see greatness, I want to see greatness in this world. I want to see the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition be unrealistic women. I want it to be unrealistic fitness levels where people are like, man, I wish I looked like that. I don't want it to be like, hey, it's good for everyone, right? I want to see the Elon Musks in the world, the Michael Jordans, the greatness in this world, where it makes me try to be better. I want to see fitness model magazines and bodybuilders on magazines that I could aspire to be, that are not even obtainable for me to achieve. People are like, oh, I want you to feel good about yourself, right? So you should put a regular dad bod up there on the thing. No, I want to see a guy up there who's hot and ripped, and he's like, I better keep this guy away from my girlfriend because he's so damn hot, right? Like, still your girlfriend hot is what I want to see on the cover of fitness magazines, not regular dad bods. I want to see what I could achieve if I was great, if it pushed me to another level. And that's going to require some discomfort. I'm sorry, guys, if it is. So people telling you have disordered eating because you're doing something to improve your life and live longer and live healthier, that's what we need to be doing. And that's what we need to be fighting against too. We're in this fight, this culture war for eating good is now we're in this culture war that's shameful, right? That you're shaming me for eating healthy, which is what the only option was 200 years ago. Now all of a sudden there's these concoctions that are we call food, that are coming in bags of chips that last on shelves for 4 years. And we're like, and I'm disordered for not eating that. So anyway, that's my rant on that, as you can tell. I want everyone to reach their potential. I want everyone to be great. And I want everyone to find what's within them, Customato, who's one of my favorite, people look up to athletes. I look up to coaches. Mr. Miyagi, who isn't a real coach, he's like a fictional character. He's like my favorite. He's like my idol, right? And I always want to be more like Mr. Miyagi. And that's something that I need to get better at one day. And I'm still trying to be better, more like Mr. Miyagi, because of how he taught lessons and how he remained calm and unemotional. And you would never hear him going on a rant like this, but he'd still deliver the same message in a different way, right? And there's another guy named Customato who was pretty close to that. He was probably the closest, and he was Mike Tyson's trainer, and I researched and studied him a lot. Some of these great coaches, I study them. And it's a cool thing if you guys want to really find some real motivation guys. These guys are they find things from within people, and that's what I need to get better at myself, is pulling things out of people that he sees. So Customato, he used to say, I don't create this from people. He's like, what I see is I see a spark, and I grab a log and I throw that log on that spark, and then one day I turned into a raging inferno. He's like, my job is not the spark. My job is the log. To turn that into the raging inferno, I need to find that from people, right? But if we don't ever see the inferno, like, where's the desire going to be at, right? And all these things that are telling you that like you're extreme is people not trying to give you that log. They're just not trying to show you that inferno, that it's possible. And pulling greatness out of someone requires them seeing greatness. It requires them looking up to someone. It requires them seeing the absolute extreme of human capabilities, right? Like when I see Joe Rogan and I'm like, he's doing 2 podcasts a day for 3 hours a day. And I'm like, how the hell does he do that? Like, how is he so much better at me than this, right? I see Elon Musk, like billions of dollars. Like, no, like everyone gets mad at him. He's got billions of dollars. He doesn't care about the money. It's way past that point. So he just wants to be great, right? And he sets a standard for everyone where it's like, this is human achievement at the highest level, right? I want to see that with Ashley Cotwelser. I want to see that with her. I want to see that it's possible for someone to compete 15 times a year, win, 7 of those times, prep within 6 days and win the Toronto Pro, right? Like, I want to see that it's possible. I don't want to see mediocrity. I don't want to be told, you have a disordered eating because I'm eating healthy, right? Don't hold me back from that. Don't tell me that the norm is obesity and anything less than that is abnormal and you're extreme and you have an eating problem because of it, right? That's people holding you back because honestly, I think a lot of it is because people who are overweight, people who aren't looking to achieve more in their life, like are threatened by you achieving greatness. And all of you listening to this podcast, all of you like doing this contest prep stuff, whether you think it's a big deal or not, you just think you're like getting on stage and wearing a bikini, whatever, right? Like you think it's not a big deal, like it's not impactful, but you're learning lessons that you're going to apply to yourselves for the rest of your life. You're learning like what it takes to achieve greatness. And in my world now, I feel like I've achieved greatness. I think we're close to taking contest prep to places where it's never been. I don't think there's really ever been anything like what we have. Contest prep center, we have 15 coaches, we have tons of athletes, everyone's killing it. The level is super, super high. Like no one's really done that, and in the entire world, right? But like I got that not because of any chase of anything. I haven't needed money for years. I don't care about that. For me, it's been about achieving greatness and seeing how far we could push it, right? But if someone were to tell me, which I've had people in my life tell me about, previous girlfriends and whatnot, tell me, you don't need any more, Adam. Like the house is paid off, that this is done. Like you don't need any more. And I'm like, is that what you think this is about? Like, you think this is about the money? I'll do this for free. But it's about being the best, right? And like all these people that do this stuff and say like food, like it's an eating disorder because you're doing good, or it's, this fat model on Sports Illustrated is beautiful. You're the one that's wrong, right? Like they're holding you back from greatness, and that's the problem with the culture is like everyone gets everyone gets an award. Everyone's great. And that attitude doesn't work in the real world. As soon as you get in the real world, that shit doesn't work. The world's tough, you got to be tough to succeed out here. So, anyway, so I just hate that stuff so much. It just keeps people down from being their best, and it really bothers me. So anyway, I want to see all of you guys, like I want to see that spark and I want to throw a log on it. And I hope you guys do too. And try to get that fire as big as you can. So are we done? How many hours are we at? We had an hour yet? No, we're almost at an hour. All right. I don't know. I feel like that was pretty good. I don't know. Maybe I'll probably re-listen to this and cringe myself. But let's see what we got. I'm going to see if there's any more in here yet. Actually, you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these questions, guys. I'm going to screenshot them. And then I'll go into them again. And then we'll go over them another day. But I feel like I want to leave off on that note because that was like something that I think everyone needs to hear. And I'm not afraid of saying it, It's important in our culture, especially with you guys, you competitors out there, to fight back against that stuff. Like if someone tells you that, like if you have an eating disorder, that's one thing, right? It's different. If you're binging and purging, like you talk to someone, get that straightened out. We have people that have problems. We send them to Celeste. Celeste is awesome for people who have, with issues with that stuff. Get it sorted and come back to your coach when you got to figure it out. But if you're just eating healthy and someone is shaming you for it, you need to stand your ground with that, because Because if you're eating a healthy amount of calories, you're working out 5 days a week, 6 days a week, you're maintaining your health, that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all. Okay, I've done it since I was 12 years old. And maybe when I was younger, I might have had a order diseating. This all started because I broke my arm. I was 12 years old, I broke my arm, my sister called me fat, right? I didn't know what to do. I ate salad and Diet Coke because Diet Coke said diet. I came from, like my mom was like first generation Mexican, right? And we just didn't have any dieting anything. Like it was like, lard and tacos and shit, it was terrible. Like we just didn't know, so I was like, all right, I'll eat salad because that's healthy and Diet Coke, right? And that was disordered eating. I wasn't eating any protein, anything for like a year until I lost that weight. And then it just kept going from there. I just started sticking to it. But, now I eat healthy and some people might say it's disordered because I don't eat bad. But once in a while I'll eat something, fries or something once in a while. But it's nothing wrong with that. I'm eating healthy amount of calories. I'm eating clean foods. Hopefully it makes my life longer. But the reality is you got to stand your ground with that stuff if you're doing it. If you're eating healthy, you're eating a good amount of calories, you're working out 5-6 days a week, like you keep doing it. Don't let anyone shame you and tell them that they're the ones that are wrong. They're absolutely the ones that are wrong for giving into this narrative that you're doing bad because you're not eating shit. No, you're eating shit. Let's leave that on the table. That's what's bad. I'm eating healthy, and that's nothing wrong with me doing that. If anything, there would be something wrong with you doing that. But if they're not gaining weight, I don't see anything real problems with it. But that's just so weird how we've gotten this far, because that wouldn't have been the case, and that all comes from from money from food companies shoving it down our throat for years, and now it's gotten here. So anyway, that's what I got. I hope you guys are doing great. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next time.